Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first of three NCL Facebook Live sessions. I'm Stephen Miller, the National Cyber League Chief Coach Ambassador and a professor and the Director of Cybersecurity Center of Excellence at Eastern New Mexico University, Ruidoso, a branch community college in the university system. The NCL resources, today we're going to talk about NCL resources available to coaches and students to enable preparation and practice in the off seasons. And what I'll try to cover is what's available on the NCL website, and then what the coaches can provide to students as far as resources and how we, and some of those resources, we'll look at ranges, we'll look at labs, we'll look at puzzles, and then we'll look at other competitions. And then I'll wrap this up with a little bit over the fall, recap of the fall 2019 season, and then what we're going to be covering in the July and the August Facebook Lives. So to start with, what's on the NCL website? Most of the practice and the actual competition covers basic areas of open source intelligence, scanning, enumeration and exploration, password cracking, traffic analysis, log analysis, cryptology, and then web application security. All those can be found, and puzzles can be found for those particular areas. And so we look at what's on the website right now. If you look on the NCL website under the resources tab, the first thing I would suggest going to is the NCL CryptoCates Coaches Guide. In that Coaches Guide, and I'll talk about that in a little bit, but it covers, there's some puzzles in there for open source, cryptology, password cracking, website traffic analysis, network analysis, and then scanning. So that's a very good resource, and you can take that right off the NCL website if you already have it. Another good thing is to go to the https cyberskyline.com/demo, especially for students that haven't participated before. If you're preparing those students in the off season, and then they're going to be their first time in the NCL, it gives them a little bit of a feel for how the Cyber Skyline competition works. And so it's a really good activity to go through. The next thing would be looking at, again, on the NCL website, the resources tab. You can go down to looking at the syllabuses that are, so it's basically NCL in the classroom. And in those syllabi, we cover both the CompTIA, Security Plus, and the ethical hacking, and also how to use NDG Labs, Infosec Labs, and the NICE Challenge. So all of those are tools that can be very helpful and could be available. And we'll talk about those when I get into talking about labs in just a minute, and ranges. Another resource that you can find, if you go, you can go on the website and look under the other events, and you can find activities, or you can do a Google search on NCL puzzles. And one of the things we use, the cybersecurity challenges in the classroom document that covers, we have puzzles, and it's actually in the syllabi. So if you go to that syllabi, the syllabus pages in the NCL, you'll see where we have puzzles for Mitre, FTP, DNS, HTTP, Telnet, and SSL authorities. So all of those are very good resources that you can use for your students. And then coming up on June the 18th, you'll see on Facebook, we're going to actually have a summer camp for puzzles. And so those puzzles will be very useful for students to use and to go with those. We'll also have a Pro Plus Facebook notices. So a little bit about tips on how to study, how to prepare, and what's coming up in NCL and for competitions. So those are all on the website. So now to look at what can coaches, and some of this is my experience, some from others, some just research that we've done but we haven't implemented yet. So student practices resources, when you look at ranges, there's several different ranges. Some of those ranges will have a fee and some of them are free. So the ones that we use, is one of them is the NICE Challenge. And again, those activities are in the NICE Challenge challenges that we use are in the syllabi page on the NCL website. And just to give you an example, I've got my list here, but what we have in our syllabi when we're looking at those particular challenges and puzzles, and these are available year-round and they're free as long as the coach gets on there as the curator. And if you need, by the way, I put my contact information in chat, and if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. And what you can do is, if you want more information from me on these, on the NICE Challenge activities, you can email me. But for example, under cyber defense analysis, there's a challenge 1110, which is malicious malware. There's a challenge for cyber defense analysis and log analysis. There's one on digital duplicates. There's one on prevention and protection for preventing intimate threats. There's one on secure domain accounts and password probabilities. So just a few. That's an example of some of the that we use. So the NICE Challenge is a really good tool for students, and it's free. CIRCADENCE is another one. The battle room in CIRCADENCE. There's a curriculum builder in there. You can customize it. There's also puzzles that can be used. The CIRCADENCE, there's a cost to that. CyberBid is another range. It's mostly it's widely deployed by for cybersecurity training and simulation platform. I would say that the NICE Challenge is another simulation. It simulates a help desk. So there's a lot more to it than just the just learning the puzzles. So it's a pretty comprehensive. All of these particular ranges are pretty comprehensive. So you need to know more than just the basics. So they could be a little bit intimidating. So I would make sure that you, as the coach, pick those challenges in there that based on the level of your students. The labs that are available, the different types of labs that can be used, and again, some of these are in those syllabi, but I mentioned the NDG Labs. Of course, many institutions have those available. When we used to use NDG Labs, and we made those available 24/7 year-round, and so that students could practice their different for this NCL competition. We use Infosec Labs now, and those are also in the syllabus. The problem with the Infosec Labs is students have to pay for those labs for a 6-month time period, so they may or may not have access to the Infosec Labs. And the other area, of course, is your own physical labs. If you have your own lab set up on site, we don't have that capability because all of our courses are online and our students are all over the world, basically. So we use Infosec and we use the NICE Challenge. So those are some of the examples of labs that you can use. There's many other labs, of course, that you could go look for out in that area. Let me see if you have any questions, you can also put that in the chat. And let me just check to see if, okay, let me see. just checking to see what kind of, if we have any questions just in live comments. And I don't see any particular ones. Okay, so the best thing is just to submit in the chat for me. Okay, the next thing, just what kind of puzzles? Where are the puzzles? I mentioned that we're going to have the puzzles in Facebook for the summer camp. Those are good resources. The NCL Coaches Guide, as I mentioned, Caitlin's Coaches Guide has a open source puzzles and cryptology puzzles, password cracking, and network traffic and scanning puzzles. Those are all available to you, and there's also, you can just do some Google searches again, like I mentioned. Mitre Cyber Academy is a very good resource. They have a GitHub repository, so you can go out to that repository and use those different puzzles they have in that particular resource. And GitHub has a lot of other puzzle resources out there. And then one of the things that we've been looking at and trying to pursue both in our clubs and with our students is a student team-generated puzzles. And you can do that as a team, or you can actually have it assigned in courses. So if we have a summer course, part of those assignments could be that they generate a puzzle that you can use during the off season. And so that's another good source. And actually, it's a very good source because it helps those students. If they can develop a puzzle, then they have a better comprehension of how to attack and solve those different competition puzzles when they get into the game. Other competitions also that I would talk about would be the there's a homegrown competitions. We had a competition with one of the other universities that was just kind of an ad hoc that we developed. You can go to the U.S. Cyber Challenge. That's a summer challenge. It's a U.S. Cyber Challenge. It's presented by the Center of Internet Security and offers a number of cybersecurity competitions. So there's several different competitions. Of course, DEFCON is coming up in August. They have several competitions there, but of course you have to physically be there for that one. The SANS NetWars we have used at our site, at our school, and it's very effective. It's a year-round, and it has a lot of, it helps students, and they can actually participate in, as if they do well, they can progress on. It's a limited amount of time they can use it unless they can progress on to a better, do better in the actual competition. And then there's the Mitre Cyber Academy, which I mentioned, and it's another year-round. And there's several different puzzles that you can go to practice. They actually have a practice area in that Mitre Cyber Academy. So I would definitely look in that one. It's a pretty good one. So I don't know if we have any questions at this point. The CIRCADENCE battle rooms is a very good one too, and I didn't mention that, but it is, I think I mentioned CIRCADENCE as part of the ranges, and it's an excellent resource. So Infosec Labs, I see that someone had mentioned the Infosec Labs. I would say that if it depends on your budgets and what you can do. That's another thing, is to budget. When we're talking about preparing, trying to get a budget for these resources could be a good thing, because like the Infosec Labs, we have a budget where we can put students on the Infosec Lab if it's part of a team activity during the summer or a club activity. So that's a good point. So are there any questions? I would, you can put that in the chat. So let me see, let me look at chat. Okay, I also put my email address in there, as I mentioned. For the fall season that's coming up, we have those dates are on the website, so you can go into fall season. And October 14th through the 21st is the preseason game. November 1st through the November 3rd is the individual game. And November 4th through November 13th is the swag shop opens. November 15th through the 17th is the team game. And then the sessions in on December the 14th that's when the gym closes as well. So you can open up, when the gym opens up, it's a good time to start practicing. If you look at the syllabi that I put out on the NCL website, you'll see we start working with the gym as soon as it opens. And you can either assign puzzles in the gym, or we usually let it go at ad hoc. And basically, we have regular team meetings, and we talk about looking at the areas that you're weak in. And of course, we get a scouting report, and based on those scouting reports, each individual student, if they participated before, we can help guide them and say, here's the areas you probably need to work on. If it's a new student that's going to participate, then we try to team them up with one of the others. Start with open source. Again, if you go back to CryptoKate's coaching guide and also the student guide, it's a very good resource for getting those students on board, especially the new students. So that's kind of the list of what's going to happen in the fall season. Let me go back and see what kind of comments we're having. Is there any formal training for coaching prospects? There's no formal training at this point. There's a video out on the website that you can view. We have these coaches calls. We could consider doing something at some of the conferences, or maybe doing a webinar. I can touch base with the NCL ops team and see if that would be something that they would want to consider. I think that might be a good idea, and I'll pass that back to the operations team. For new starters, which one would you as far as I'm not quite sure if you mean what would I recommend for competitions. Of course, I think the NCL is probably one of the best. You don't have to have any experience. As far as labs, again, I would say that probably if you have a lab like NDG or the Infosec, those would probably be the two that I would start with. The NICE Challenge, they need to have some experience to use a NICE Challenge. It's a slap in the face if you don't have a good background in networking, systems administration, network administration. It's basically a help desk simulator. Even I would say that the easy challenges there are not, for someone that's a novice or never has done this before, I would not push them on the NCL, on the NICE Challenge, starting with that. Now, what we do in our course, we use it for a competency. So at the end of a course, we will actually pick some nice challenges to use. So that's, and Infosec, you can go to the National Cyberwatch website, and that will get you linked up with Infosec Labs. They have actually several courses and curriculum developed under that. Or you can go to the Cyberwatch West We have several. I'm a co-PI with CyberWatch West. We have several resources as well for that. So let me see what else. CyberBite is a again, that's a range. They have some really, again, there's a cost to that range. They do have some testing capabilities there, and get basically like a gym that you can practice. So let's see what else we have. Is there a site license for the SANS NetWars? No, we didn't. There's not. That's actually, at least when we've used it, it's not been a charge for that. But the students have to go to use it on a continuing basis. They have to continually to be proficient, and then there's competitions at different levels, and so they can only proceed on as far as they're possible. You know, so only the top players are going to be able to continue on past the introductory thing. But it's a very good introduction, I think. Let's see here. You know, the training would be good, and I will pass that on. Over the wire, someone said, very helpful to build Linux skills. And so, yeah, there's several. And I'm not covering everything in this session. There's just so much out there. You can Google different puzzles and practice activities. These are just the ones that I've been familiar with, or we've looked into it as trying to implement into our curriculum and our for our students. And we actually also provide that for the high school that we have dual credit courses with. And so we had two high school teams this last season, and 2 teams for the college. So this summer, the students are basically using the Infosec Labs. That the ones that are going to participate already participated. We did get them access to the Infosec Labs. They also have all these other puzzles that they're working on, and then we have the NICE Challenge for those that are at the higher end of that are basically sophomores and have been through enough courses that it's not that intimidating to them. So that's about all I have. Pico CTF is helpful, that's for sure. And again, someone made a comment here that Joe, about the Joe Welch, who is a very good resource too. But the guideline that CryptoCade put together is excellent, and we use that. Our students, and actually going to her blog is well worth it. The students can go there anytime, and I think that has been one of the most beneficial. We actually had a team improve from last year that went to from bronze to silver, just in the fact that they kind of followed what CryptoCade had been advising them. So she's an excellent resource. She's probably the best example of how you can start with not doing very many, being able to succeed the first time you participate, which is okay, but how she grew and improved, and now she tries to stay in the top 100, or she was when she was participating. Now she's a coach. And so just what we're going to cover next in July, it's going to be July 9th, 8 to 8:30 Eastern Time. And we're going to talk about NCL in the classroom. The session will cover how to leverage the NCL resources and how to coordinate. Sometimes there's some issues around coordinating activities around your semester or your quarter, and how do you get all that in. We'll talk about some of the ways we can provide you some advice on that, and then the types of courses that you can use to tie into the NCL. So it doesn't. We have it in a capstone class. We have it in a CompTIA Security Plus class and an ethical hacking class. So there's different classes that you can have other instructors become coaches and make it part of their class. And we'll talk about that. And then our final session for this summer will be in August 6th, and same time, 8 to 8:30 Eastern time. And that's going to be how the NCL competition maps to the standard frameworks. And so we'll talk about the NICE framework and then also Mitre's framework in their and how they use their competition. And maybe we'll have some other ones. So hopefully that will help everyone get prepared for the competition coming up this fall. So if there's any questions, any more questions or comments, go ahead and put your live comment in there if you have any more. Okay, well, that's really all I have today. I hope this has been helpful. Make sure I have, okay.